complainant who you might feel is credible.
The first thing that we were doing with someone like that is actually to make sure we do comfort the person that's happened to. That's certainly a priority, and in this case it was a very priority. But until, like for us as a congregation and as brothers handling this, until we have another witness, just on the basis of the one alone, we can't act judicially. So that's how we acted. So until that further information comes to mind, in that way we're having to support the victim in this case. So I don't know what else I could say for that.
But that would be very dependent, wouldn't it, upon your own assessment of the victim, and wouldn't that leave a very fraught situation? It's a dangerous situation. Well, you've got an unproved complaint. It leaves the victim or the complainant hanging in the air, doesn't it? Because you can't really address the complaint. So
that's true.
The complainant is left hanging in the air without any form of justice to her.
If it's, it depends what way you look at the justice for it, but from the congregation, we're just going to continue to give her that support and also have the confidence that other things will come to light. So we'll continue to very much look at that. And anything that comes to our attention, we will then follow through on. But in the meantime, you're actually would help the person, the victim, to really see, well, we are putting our trust totally that, yes, Jehovah is seeing it. He knows that the person is guilty, and it will certainly be made evident. And as it was in this case, we look at that from the first committee meeting, and then by a week later, that's verified that child abuse had taken place. So
verified by virtue of his confession?
At that appeals meeting, where he then said, yes, everything that BCG had said was true.
See, I don't want to labour the issue. I'm conscious of time, but it's a case, isn't it, that confession you were aware of that confession prior to the appeal meeting. He made that confession prior to the appeal meeting. He, in fact, made it at a meeting in July.
My recollection is that it was there at the appeals that that confession was made.
Excuse me. But you do accept, don't you, that the process, your process is fraught with the danger of leaving victims feeling that they are not believed.
I disagree with that.
Excuse me, Your Honour. Nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Coyne.
Thank you, Your Honour. For the record, Coyne, I represent Mr. DeRoy and other elders. Ms. David was just asking you some questions in relation to a transcript of Mr. Arlai's notes. Do you recall that?
Yes.
I think it's Exhibit 29, if that could be brought up again, please. stroke 8. Thank you. Specifically, about halfway down, you're asked in relation to the portion where it says, tell BCG of decision to disfellowship on grounds of loose conduct. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. If the witness could be given a copy of the unredacted version of that. He doesn't know. Yeah, have you got?
I don't think that's one, is it? It's not the same document. Oh, okay.
Do you have the unredacted version there? If you could go to, and the pages are at the top, ringtail 1495. And you should find that same sentence that you've been asked about.
Yep.
And do you agree that that, in fact, talks about BCH and not BCG?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Now, all I would like to do now, Mr. De Roy, is just clarify your knowledge and involvement in this matter. Okay? So, in 1989, you were an elder of the Mariba congregation.
That's right.
You'd been so for quite a while.
Until presently.
You knew BCG at that time.
Yes.
In 1989, the elders received a complaint in relation to BCH in relation to him having an adulterous affair.
That's correct.
The elders investigated that matter,
Yes.
and after investigating that matter, formed a judicial committee to determine that matter.
That's correct.
And that was the judicial committee which was held on the 12th of July 1989.
Yes, I don't remember the date, but that'd be correct.
The judicial committee found that allegation to be proven,
Yes.
and the judicial committee determined to disfellow BCH.
That's correct.
If you could go to tab, or if we could bring up tab 3, please. You need to see the whole of that document.
That's right.
Is that document the finding of the judicial committee that we've just been discussing?
Yes.
Just take you to the, and you've signed that.
That's correct, yes.
Take you to the top of that document. It's got a stamp on it that says SD, 7 August 1989. All right?
Yes.
Do you know what the SD stands for?
Be the service desk.
Okay. What did you do with that document, having prepared it?
This was actually sent to the service desk for them to be able to stamp that and was that.
Was it sent by you to the service desk, or was it sent to the appeal committee?
It originally would have went to the appeals committee, and then they would have sent it through to the. From what I can remember.
Okay. In relation to a disfellowship, having made that decision, when does it become effective?
You usually still allow the 7 days, and then would announce it to the congregation that the person has been disfellowshipped.
Actually, just more questions on the judicial committee. At that judicial committee, is it the case that BCG and her mother attended the meeting?
From my memory, I can't remember the mother.
Okay. Did BCG's fiancé attend that meeting?
I remember him being at the first meeting.
Okay. And during that meeting, BCG made allegations which are the subject of these proceedings at that meeting.
Yes.
And during that meeting, BCH at all times refused to admit those allegations.
That's correct.
Okay. So, after the committee meeting, did the elders continue to investigate those allegations?
I can say yes, but I have no, I can't be specific.
Okay. If we could bring up tab 8, please. Wrong one. Tab 5, I'm sorry. That's the record of the appeal committee, is that right?
That's right.
Which you attended.
Yes.
Now, you see at the top the date, SD 7 August 1989.
Yes.
That's the same date that the other committee one went to the service desk, correct?
Right.
So would your original document from the Judicial Committee have gone with this?
That would have been the case.
Okay. And in this one at the Appeal Committee, even though it was an appeal in relation to his disfellowshipping, BCH was questioned at length about BCG's allegations.
That's correct.
And as a consequence of that, ultimately, he admitted to carrying out those acts.
That's true.
And it was acknowledged in this document, if we could go up a bit further on, that those allegations were more serious.
That's very much so.
And those allegations were then added to the reason for disfellowshipping.
That's true.
Okay. After that meeting, did the elders make any arrangements for the care and welfare of BCG?
From my memory, we had a couple that took BCG in to their home for a long period of time, and then Kevin Bowditch, she then went to her home just before they got married, or at the marriage.
She lived with Mr. Bowditch.
Yes.
Mr. Bowditch being another elder of the Waruba congregation, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Shortly after disfellowshipping, BCH moved away from the community, is that right?
That's correct.
And shortly thereafter, towards the end of 1989, BCG was married.
That's true, yes.
And was married in the congregation.
That's true.
At the Kingdom Hall.
That's the case.
And after her wedding, lived for a time.
It's the case, yes.
And after that, after you were informed of that, and this is tab 27, you don't need to look at it, you wrote to that new congregation suggesting that a number of restrictions be imposed upon him.
That's right.
Actually, on the 19th of December 1995, BCG gave you a letter detailing her concerns about BCH's reinstatement.
That's correct.
On that very same day, you sent that through to the service desk.
That's correct.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Stewart.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, I just have one question, if I might. Mr. Drury, my name
I need
is...
to just turn that microphone, I think, so your voice is picking up.
Thank you. Mr. Drury, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. Mr. Drury, my name is Ms McGlinchey and I appear for Monty Baker in these proceedings. Right. Mr. Drury, you'd be aware that Mr. Baker is a disfellowshipped person?
I'm not really aware of that.
You're not aware
No.
You're not aware at all that he is in a, I think you call it a disfellowship state?
I'm not aware of that.
Have you discussed that with your other Jehovah's Witnesses in this proceedings?
No.
All right. As a disfellowshipped person, you would not be allowed to speak to him, is that right?
I would choose not to speak to him.
Or recognise him in any way?
I wouldn't even know what he looks like.
All right. But you would know from the documents that were provided through your counsel that he has provided a statement in these proceedings. Do you know that?
I saw the name, I think, but I'm not aware.
Did you read the statement?
No.
And was that because he is a disfellowshipped person?
Not at all, no.
I noticed that a number of Jehovah's Witnesses have not read the statements of the two victims of sexual abuse. Is that because they are critical of the church?
Not at all, no.
Was there any discussion prior to coming to these hearings about what materials you would read and what materials you wouldn't read?
Not at all. That's a total personal decision, what I would do.
And you decided not to read Mr. Baker's statement?
It never entered into my head to do so.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart.
No questions, Your Honour.
Thank you, Mr. DeRoy. Your evidence has finished. You're now excused. Thank you.
Your Honour, the next witness will be Mr. Monty Baker. He'll be giving evidence by video from Brisbane, and I'm advised that for purposes of establishing the connection and so on, it would be most convenient if we might take a 5-minute break.
Tell us when you're ready.
That's right, please.
Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.